Trades are one of the biggest components when it comes to the world of sports. It always brings a sense of fascination, excitement, and perhaps a sense of shock to a lot of fans. And many trades are very impactful when it comes to the future of a particular franchise and potentially the future of an entire league in some cases. While most players who are big time players usually spend their entire career with one franchise, usually the one that drafted them, there are some dudes that are getting traded so many times that they're swapping their jerseys as much as we change our underwear. And when it comes to hockey, there are numerous guys who share the title of being the most traded players of all time. And as a result, in this video, I'm going to be discussing 3 NHL players who have been traded the most in league history with regards to their playing career. So number 1, we have Jean-Jacques Daigneault, otherwise known as JJ Daigneault. His professional playing career lasted from 1981 until 2001, in which he played a couple years in the QMJHL before being drafted in 1984 in the NHL draft by the Vancouver Canucks at 10th overall. His playing career spanned a huge chunk of the league. He played for the Vancouver Canucks, the Philadelphia Flyers, the Montreal Canadiens, the St. Louis Blues, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Anaheim Ducks, the New York Islanders, the Nashville Predators, the Phoenix Coyotes, and last but not least, the Minnesota Wild. In total, he was traded 7 times in his professional playing career. Notably, he was traded twice in the middle of the 1995-96 season, going from Montreal to St. Louis and then from St. Louis to Pittsburgh. His career numbers aren't necessarily that spectacular. He played just one game shy of 900 professional games in the NHL. He had 250 points, 687 penalty minutes, 99 career playoff games, and 100 penalty minutes. He did win a Stanley Cup with the Montreal Canadiens in 1993, in which in that year he had 20 playoff games and only 4 points. So not necessarily a big time player, so to speak. For Daigneault, however, he did have some pretty decent production and had a very good physical presence during his playing career, which made him a highly coveted player for a lot of NHL clubs. And in some cases, he would play pretty lengthy playoff seasons. I mentioned in 1993 with Montreal, in 95-96 when he got to Pittsburgh, he actually played a very pivotal role for that team. And in the latter half of his career, he actually played for a number of expansion clubs. Most notably, he played for the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim in their first few seasons. He also was a part of the inaugural Nashville Predators team in 1998-99, and his final year in the NHL was in the 2000-2001 season, where he played just one NHL game with the Minnesota Wild, while also playing in 44 IHL games before deciding to call it in. Number 2, Vaclav Prospal. Originally from Czechia, had a pretty solid NHL career playing from 1993 till 2013. He was a former 3rd round pick of the Philadelphia Flyers in the 93 entry draft, where he went 71st overall, and his playing career was relatively consistent. He played in over 1,100 career NHL games, playing for the Philadelphia Flyers, the Ottawa Senators, the Florida Panthers, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Anaheim Ducks, the New York Rangers, and the Columbus Blue Jackets. He totaled 510 assists and 255 goals for 765 points. He also played in 65 playoff games over his 20-year career, putting up 35 points in the postseason. His career saw him get traded 6 times in total, twice in 2001 and twice in 2008. Most of his career was spent with at least a few bottom feeder teams that weren't necessarily very competitive, but he technically thrived very well, and his consistency actually landed him in pretty good spots. I believe his career high in points in a season was like 80 points, and even into his late 30s, he was still putting up somewhere between like 50 and 55 points a season. His final year in the NHL was in the 2013 lockout-shortened season, where he only played in 48 NHL games for the Columbus Blue Jackets, while also playing in 19 games in the Czech League as a result of the lockout. Last but not least, we have Brent Ashton. So Brent Ashton is more of an old school kind of guy. His professional playing career was from 1975 until 1994. He was drafted 26th overall in the 1979 NHL draft by the Vancouver Canucks, and his playing career was mostly marred by his trade history. He was having some issues with staying healthy during the high-flying 80s and 90s, but his career was mostly identified by the fact that he was a pretty solid pure goal scorer, as his career numbers saw him score somewhere between 15 and 30 goals in most of his seasons in the NHL. He was traded 8 times, which actually makes him tied for the most trades in an individual playing career. Most notably, he was traded twice on the same day in 1981. That was probably the most significant stretch here. He played for the Vancouver Canucks, the Colorado Rockies, the New Jersey Devils, the Minnesota North Stars, the Quebec Nordiques, the Detroit Red Wings, the original Winnipeg Jets, the Boston Bruins, and last but not least, the Calgary Flames. His final year saw him play just 32 games in the NHL for Calgary, while also playing 16 games in the IHL. He finished his career just shy of 1,000 games played, finishing at 998 total. He scored 298 goals, 629 points, and 85 career playoff games, in which in those games he scored 49 points. And that's all I have. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you want a part 2. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this one. It helps me get you on YouTube's algorithm too. And yes, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.